Creatio CRM is built on top of an automation platform that combines sales, marketing, and service, all powered by a no-code engine. What makes Creatio stand out is its flexibility. You can design your own business processes with drag-and-drop tools, automate complex workflows, and connect every part of your customer journey, all without writing a line of code. In this video, we'll explore Creatio's core sales functionality, we'll dig into its positioning as an AI-native platform, and we'll talk about its pricing, its pros and its cons, all to help you determine if this is the right CRM for you. Hi, I'm Dan Lehman from SoftwareFinds.com. Come check out our website where we've reviewed dozens of CRM platforms and built tools to help you choose the right software for your business. So let's dive into the Creatio platform. The first thing that you notice about Creatio is they definitely have a lot of color. This is something that they've iterated on, and they've released different versions of their UI. So this is what it currently looks like. I've got a dashboard that displays here in the middle, and then I'm also able to configure how I want my workspace to appear. So we have all of these different apps, and we can configure our own workplace setup. Now, I'll be operating primarily out of sales, and we're going to talk about the sales aspects of the CRM, but note that there's also marketing and service functionality as well. So if I click onto the home dashboard for sales, I'm presented with the key information for myself as a sales user. What I love about the reporting is we can easily click into the data and we can drill down into it to see the underlying records. So a lot of newer CRMs, they've got some okay dashboards, but these kind of old school dashboards are really powerful when it comes to looking at the data the way you want it to. And dashboards and reporting are prevalent throughout the system. Here we are on home. You saw one on the main home screen. We can also click on dashboards and create our own dashboards that display across the top. Or I could click on an entity like our leads, and while we can see the underlying data, we could also shift this to look at a leads dashboard. Now, for our leads and contacts and companies, anytime we're looking at a list of records, we're able to add our own custom filters to it. I can open up a lead record. Here we've got our business process flow up across the top. We've got the ability to add buttons, each with their own processes attached to this so that we can really control the flow of information as we go about our sales process. Here you can see how we're able to configure our screen so we can take a look at similar leads if we want to deduplicate them. We've got our processing where we can show any messages, system messages, leave notes to ourselves or to our team. Here we've got sales with our opportunity planning and our products. And we've got history, which is super helpful for reporting. How long did we actually spend at each stage in our pipeline? Now, typically at this point in the review, I'd want to talk about how we can actually communicate with our prospects, and usually that's via email. But I got to tell you, out of the CRMs that we've evaluated, this is the trickiest process to actually set up your email. So I'd go into my settings up at the top, go to my profile, then I'd have to click into additional settings. From here, I choose email accounts. Then I need to set up a new mailbox. From here, I can select a mail service, so I'm using Gmail. But the problem is that I don't just use standard Gmail, I use a corporate domain. And let's be real, most companies do have a corporate domain if you're going to spend this much on a CRM. But here, notice the first thing that it talks about is if you have a corporate domain, then you need to register the Creatio application in Google Workspace. And so to do this, you need to set up a Google Cloud Platform project to be able to enable this app. This is a lot of steps. So right off the bat, you pretty much need someone who's going to be an admin of this system. It's not a lightweight system that you can just spin up and add email to. Instead, it's a lot of steps to get it going. Now, if we head back into our opportunities for our pipeline management, you remember on the dashboards, we could see a nice pipeline chart, and that's great. But I would expect in a no-code system like this that we could choose different views, different visualizations on our data. And yes, we can click into a dashboard for this kind of information, but I don't want it in a dashboard. I just want to be able to actually select the core data itself. So the crazy part to me is that there is no Kanban view. There's no way that I can actually have this drag and drop experience of my deals in the pipeline. You need to go to their marketplace. You need to buy an add-on that you're paying monthly fees for a Kanban just for this data to display how I would typically think about it in a CRM. So while Creatio is immensely configurable, it doesn't really do what I want it to out of the box. Now within our opportunities, again, I can control these next steps of what happens in order for me to actually close this deal. And so here I have tasks that I can mark complete in order to actually progress to being closed won. Creatio is a workflow powerhouse. They used to be called BPM Online. So anything that's business process oriented, you want to go through a series of flows or tasks to be able to do something in the system, you're not going to find a better choice than with Creatio. Likewise, Creatio does come with some pretty good out-of-the-box functionality as it relates to actually moving our data around the system. So if I just mark this as close one, notice I can now convert this to an order. And so here we go. It's automatically created my order number. It's added all the products that I need. It's totaled this up. And so we're able to take that information without having to manually enter it a number of times. Another sales feature oftentimes lacking in CRMs is around forecasting. So down here, I can click into my forecasting module. And unfortunately, the demo dataset doesn't come with the actual data to see the forecast, but you can kind of see here the expected versus actual and actual percentage. And you can do this by customer, by product, and then by the sales reps underneath a sales manager. So that means if I'm back in an opportunity, we can simply commit this to the forecast, save that, recalculate it, and it's going to show our forecast for that quarter. Now, everything in Creatio is meant to be configurable. So if I click these settings on top of my opportunities here, this is going to take me into my page designer. And so this is where I've got the ability to add new fields. Notice I can hover over any of these sections on the page. I could delete and move those around. I can change my data model attributes that are displaying here. I've got a number of different widgets to choose from and components. So there's really a lot we can do from a visual design standpoint to make this look exactly the way that we want. And so that's why I talk about Creatio as this really nice blend between no-code platforms and a CRM. Yes, there's some CRM functionality out of the box and it works decently as a CRM, but really being able to configure and make it your own is what gives it so much power. Now, if we head into our settings, this is where we're going to be able to configure our processes in addition to the UI parts that you saw before. So let's go to our process library. And this is pretty crazy how many different processes ship with the system out of the box. Now, this is a little bit of a unique way at looking at our automations run by object signal. It's basically, in other systems, we'd say, which are the different triggers that we have. So we could open something like a case and see, hey, when the case is inserted or created or updated, basically our different triggers. And then within each of those, which are all of the different processes that we have. Now, some of these processes are very simple. We have add insights to account, and this basically is just one step involving an LLM to say, hey, let's set the account number, description, and name. But notice we can build as complicated of workflows here as we want as well. This one's called update opportunity data. Basically, take a look at our customer needs. From there, we're going to match based on the kinds of records that we have in the system to be able to add any products to the opportunity. So now it's saying, hey, this is what we know about your customer. We have identified these products or services that might be a good fit for you. We're going to add any competitors that we think are relevant. We can add any contacts to this. And so then we'll update that total contract value. So this is an incredibly powerful workflow automation engine that you're really not going to get at this same level in most CRMs at all. Now, as long as we're talking about customizing and extending the system, it's important to talk about Creatio's AI native capabilities as well. I have to say, most of the time, I'm not overly wowed by AI capabilities in platforms such as these, but Creatio really has done a lot of work to take this to a new level. So the main area that you'll interact with Creatio's AI is if you click this AI button, and this displays on any screen. So wherever you're at, you're going to get this ability to chat with Creatio's AI. But here I have my AI command center, and here's the different things I can do directly inside Creatio. So first, I can create different Creatio agents. So for example, if I'm in the CRM, then I want this sales agent who can support my full sales lifecycle. An agent is going to be what we interact with from this chat interface. And that agent is going to have access to a variety of skills to make it useful. So out of the box, Creatio ships with 47 different skills that you can use within those agents, and you can create your own skills as well. So some examples here. Account news and insights. Imagine you can ask questions to have it enrich the data of your actual accounts in the CRM, or formatting addresses, or enriching opportunity data based on your activity transcriptions. Maybe you have phone calls and it's going to take the updates from those phone calls and enrich the opportunity, or helping you find a time slot for a meeting with the contacts from that opportunity. And then the last piece of the puzzle here are these ML models. And this is really useful because if you were just using ChatGPT, ChatGPT wouldn't have access to all of your data. But because you can actually train it yourself on your own CRM data, then this is going to be much more powerful. So for example, it can score our opportunities based on the success of our past opportunities that we already have stored in the database. So we can tell it to only look at opportunities that are closed won, and then from here we can choose which of the columns or which of the fields in here are going to potentially manipulate or potentially be relevant to those results. So we can choose our opportunities. Then it's going to save and store those results into a field that we have on the record. We can choose it to automatically retrain. So if we have new opportunities every quarter that we're going through, then it can retrain on essentially a cron job here. So this is pretty impressive that you get agents where you can add new custom skills all the time, and you have your own machine learning models where you can dictate what data actually gets fed into it. I remember working at a competitor a few years ago, and they were doing their own machine learning models, and this was prior to the days of ChatGPT, but it was always this black box. Our customers would always ask, well, that's great that you're predicting those results, but how do I know? How do I know you're making that prediction accurately? What's that based off of? And we just had to say, well, trust the model. So Creatio has really baked in a lot of powerful functionality here. Now, if you want to extend the platform further, like I mentioned before, there is the Creatio Marketplace. And there's a lot you can do with it, both when it comes to extending the functionality as well as connecting to other systems. But you do need to prepare yourself that most of these are going to be paid add-ons that are going to be on top of the already relatively hefty fees you're paying to Creatio. As I mentioned before, you want to have a Kanban view? Great, you can do that with a third-party tool, and that's going to cost you as well. You'll be paying $70 a month to pay for a Kanban board. Now, Creatio does offer options to connect to external apps on your own if you're a developer, but it's not quite as simple as just a single API. Here you can see there's OData and data service options, a process engine, and the ability to create your own custom web services. So it's powerful, but it takes quite a bit of technical know-how. Augment that with the fact that there is no Creatio Zapier connector, aside from one that might be pre-supported or unsupported, but you certainly can't just choose it out of the available Zapier connectors. That means you're really limiting yourself to an easy path to be able to integrate with other systems. Creatio does have a mobile application which you can download from the Play or App Store of your choice. One thing that I think is kind of cool is that it feels like its own operating system within it. So oftentimes you just get nested navigation menus, but here I can actually see my different apps. One thing that's useful about their mobile application is that you do get offline functionality. When you come online again, it's going to sync everything back up. I can take a look at my leads. One of the things that I don't like is that I don't really have an easy UI to be able to see all of my leads. Instead, I can search for them, but that doesn't make it easy to know which leads I'm referring to. I can open up a lead. From here, I can see all of their key information. Maybe I want to give them a call. When I call them, this is going to prompt for the creation of a new call record so I can keep track of what we spoke about. We have access to push notifications, and we can also access Creatio AI. Next, let's talk about Creatio's pricing, which if you're a small or medium-sized business, this is probably the most controversial part of the product. So right off the bat, we choose between a growth, enterprise, or unlimited plan at $25, $55, or $85 per user per month. If we compare the details, there's not a lot that really stands out. It's very quantity-based. You get more storage, you get more executions. It makes sense how they do the pricing between these different plans, though it's very technical in nature as opposed to outcomes or functional. One important thing to call out is that you do have a minimum of 5 users for growth and enterprise, and for unlimited, you have a minimum of 50 users. Once you've selected your plan, as I've done here with growth, then the thing that you'll notice is that the minimum purchase for new customers is $10,000 per year. And not only that, but instead of choosing between a monthly or an annual contract, their standard contract term is 3 years. So even though I have their minimum of 5 users and I'm paying the growth plan at $25 per user per month, I'm still not off the hook. At this point, I am only paying $1,500 per year, and that is nowhere near my minimum of $10,000 per year. So this is just the platform fee. Now, if you are going to be a salesperson and you're using the sales CRM, then you're in addition paying $15 per user to access the sales functionality on top of that no-code framework. So if we had 5 people, well, that's now going to up this to $200 per month. We are now at $2,400 per year. Now, if we want that powerful AI functionality that we talked about, well, we're going to have to choose how many actions we want per year. And this is not inexpensive. Let's say we are on growth at 125,000 AI actions. This is going to be any single AI action with Creatio AI, and that's going to tack on $25,000 per year. Now, let's say I'm really interested in Creatio AI and the advanced functionality we have there. Well, I can choose from my available plans. So their lowest plan is Start with 25,000 AI actions. That's going to cost me $5,000 per year. So we are now up to $7,400 per year, still haven't hit our minimum. Let's say we want to add a partner portal. We can do that at a reduced rate. So we'll add in some additional users here. That brings us to $8,840, and then comes support. Now, it's pretty crazy to me that you can pay $10,000 per year to this company, and all you get is AI support included. If you want to have business support, then you're going to pay 10% of your subscription value. That now takes us to $97.24. We still have not hit that minimum. So let's add a few more portal users. There we go. We get over our $10,000 per year, and now we can purchase the software. So it's one thing to spend $10,000 per year on software. Many organizations do. It's a cost of doing business. But being contracted into $10,000 per year with a 3-year term, that's really hard to bite off. Let's take a look at how this compares to other software platforms that we've evaluated. So Adio is a little bit more expensive, but they don't have all of those user minimums, and they still have kind of that no-code feel because it looks a lot like Notion. And overall, it's one of our top-rated platforms. HubSpot has an amazing free plan. It's an all-in-one, similar to Creatio. However, the pricing accelerates really quickly. But even with that all being said, we've got really good marks across the board. If you want a system that's very deeply configurable, similar to Creatio, then Zoho's a really good fit, and Zoho is much more affordable. So let's scroll all the way down the page, and we'll go to our next page, and this is where we find Creatio currently at 14 out of 14 in our reviews. Now, I want to point out that we've looked at this through the lens of small and medium-sized businesses. So if you're comparing against Salesforce, this could very well stack up in your favor. But on the value side, we're pretty low because you have such a high minimum spend to get a lot of the same features that you would get for much less money on other platforms. The impact is more scalable because we can build out so many business processes. Configurability is pretty strong, especially because of their automation engine. Ease of use is rated pretty lowly. And this is not from the end user's perspective. This is more from the administrative side, that it takes a lot to get up and running to make the system work the way you want it to. And transparency is pretty strong as well. The other thing you want to do is see how this stacks up against other systems. So here you can see value against configurability. We're a little bit in the lower portion. But if we look at something like impact against configurability, this is where it starts to move upstream. Creatio is best suited for mid-sized to large organizations that need deep customization, complex process automation, and unified CRM across sales, marketing, and service. It's especially strong for industries like financial services, telecom, and manufacturing, where workflows are more complex and heavily regulated. It's also ideal for companies that value the combination that no-code flexibility brings with the structure of a CRM. On the other hand, smaller businesses or startups with straightforward CRM needs may find Creatio too heavy and expensive. The $10,000 minimum contract and modular pricing makes it less appealing for small teams, and it's also not ideal for teams without a dedicated admin or power user to manage the system. Creatio is quite powerful, but it comes with a high learning curve as well. If after watching this video, you're still not sure which is the right CRM for your business, check out our website at softwarefinds.com, where we have lots of additional reviews and comparisons.